Hey everybody, it's KD with another episode of Girl on Fire. As you can see, I am recording at night, therefore my camera is crappy. It seems to do better in the daytime, but when it turns night, all you can see is my glasses. It looks kind of strange. And this yellow hat, that's kind of funky, but we're going to go with it. So today I have with me a first time guest, Max Ellendale. I got that right?
You got it.
Okay, there we go. So we're gonna do something a little different today. As you know, as you guys know, it's called Girl on Fire for a reason, and it's usually hot sauces. And I do hot sauces to kind of throw the authors off their game a little bit, and maybe they'll get embarrassed, maybe they'll be goofy, or whatever. But we kind of wanted to break from the program so I could get her on and get her comfortable. So we're actually doing I'm doing curry, and she's doing a Indian dish. I'm doing a yellow curry, a Thai curry, which is extremely spicy. It has it's a vegetable curry. It has tofu, cabbage, carrots, broccoli, what's this? Snap peas, and it's in a nice thick yellow curry with coconut milk, and I have it over noodles. I actually bought it yesterday for my birthday dinner. On my way home, there's a place that I like to go to get Thai food. It's relatively cheap and it's actually pretty tasty. So I usually get pad Thai, but I decided to get something different yesterday since it was my birthday. I was like, oh, I'm going to splurge and get something, different. So I got this, and I think this is my new favorite dish. I might have to try some of their other stuff, but it's really good. It has fried tofu in it. Of course, it doesn't look fried anymore because it's wet now, but it's really good. So Max, tell us about what you're gonna be eating.
Gosh, so I have vegetable bahiyas, which is kind of like a vegetable pancake. I'll show you
Uh-huh.
guys. It's good. There you go.
Oh,
It's really good. It's got cauliflower and broccoli and onions and a little bit of potatoes,
oh, that sounds
cilantro,
good.
turmeric, other spices, curry
Uh-huh.
powder, and it has tamarind and green chili chutney with it. So
You may have to
those are
send me that
that's
recipe.
it's great. It's so easy.
Really? But see,
Yeah,
now
it's
I
so
got to
easy.
show everybody my food. It
Yeah, you
looks
gotta
kind of
show it.
like. Can anybody see?
Yeah, this one tips pretty good. It's just like,
Yeah, I don't want to slide any on my computer there. That would be tragic.
yeah.
But yeah, you're definitely gonna have to send me that recipe.
I will. I will.
Yeah.
Very easy.
So, are you like a big time cook, or do you just only cook certain things?
It really, I can cook anything and I cook a lot of stuff. I tend to focus a lot on vegetarian dishes because that's just what I prefer.
Okay.
Um,
I'm a
there,
vegetarian too. So.
yeah, it's just easier. I mean, it's not like I won't eat meat, but it's just I don't. I just don't. If I'm pre-pandemic life when I went out, maybe I would get chicken or something. But now it's
Yeah.
like I don't. No, I don't.
I eat shrimp, and I'll
Yeah,
eat like tuna or something like that. But this is as
yeah,
much as I had oysters, um, but I consider all that seafood type
yeah,
stuff for me, So, but other
yeah.
than that, I haven't had. And I was a huge steak eater, huge, huge steak eater. So I haven't had red meat. I haven't had any meat other than the seafood for almost, I want to say 7, 8 months.
Oh wow, yeah.
Been that long, and I thought I was gonna miss it. I don't really miss it. Wasn't that hard. It wasn't that hard. I mean, because there's a lot of tasty stuff,
Mhm.
that you can make or buy or whatever. That's not meat based. So I was like, and a part of it is I wanted to be healthy and stuff.
Yeah,
So
and
like, do you like do vegetarian and other cultures like when you cook, or do which like do you like branch out and
yeah, I mean, Indian food is something I like. It's even though there's so much that goes into it, it's
lots of
easier.
ingredients, yeah.
Yeah, lots of ingredients. I like fresh ingredients a lot.
Hmm.
So I tend to use a lot of Indian seasonings, but I also do a lot of simple stuff with like oil and garlic and salt and pepper and
Mm-hmm.
just a couple of spices here and there. And like today I also made sweet potato, cabbage, egg stir fry. And everybody's like, what
Mm.
the hell is that? I'm like, it is fine, So I had that. It's delicious. So I had that in like a flour tortilla with a little
Mm-hmm.
cheese. To me, it tastes like, and I seasoned it with a couple different things.
Mm-hmm.
It tastes no different to me than the meat of a regular taco. It
Really?
actually tastes better to me. Yeah. So, and it
Hmm.
has the same tighter consistency, like chicken, ground chicken. So to me, it's better. It holds the flavors better instead of just having
Mm-hmm.
meat flavors. So yeah, I cook a bit.
Huh.
Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
my mom's Italian and
Oh.
Ukrainian, and she cooks
Oh.
a lot of meat-based stuff. So I will eat meatballs when she makes them. And
Oh, well, of course. I mean, you
yeah,
got to eat the meatballs if
gotta
you
eat
have
the fried.
authentic Italian. I mean, come on.
Absolutely. And honestly, she puts so much bread and breadcrumbs in it. It's like, how much meat is actually in this meat?
Really?
Yeah, it's delicious.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and she fries them too. Most people, sorry, my phone wasn't off. Most people don't fry meatballs anymore. She goes way old school and fries them. So I'll have
Oh,
one of
I
those.
do. When I was making them, I would pan fry them. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
definitely.
yep,
To me, it turns out better
so
if
much better.
you able to brown them on all sides and so. Oh my God!
Yep,
See,
so good.
oh yeah, it's so much better that way.
Then
But
I don't make vegan meatballs, but Morningstar Farms makes a vegan. I think it's vegan or vegetarian meatballs that are amazing too. So
really,
yeah, they're
I
little
like a
tiny
lot of
ones.
their stuff.
They're so good. Me too. A lot
Have
of
you
their
tried the chicken?
yes,
The
my favorite
chicken.
chicken. I don't understand what's in it, but
It
it's chicken.
the texture and everything, and it's
Everything.
just like what? Because
Yep.
I did tacos with the chicken
Mhm.
ones, and I was like, wow, this is really good. And Gardein, they do
Mhm.
pretty good with stuff too. They have some really
Yeah,
good stuff.
they do.
So
So
yes.
I'm very happy with
Hmm.
some of the frozen things that I can find these days too. So it's a
Definitely,
lot.
definitely. But yeah, I like to cook occasionally. Occasionally, I'm a good cook. It's just, and I used to cook a lot, but I kind of got burned out from it.
Yeah, I get
And
burned out
like
too.
every once in a while now, I'll just get a hair up my ass and I'm just like, oh my God, I gotta make homemade chili or
Yeah.
homemade vegetarian chili that I made a couple months ago. Oh my
Oh,
God, it was
that
so
sounds amazing.
good. It had like sweet potatoes and a few different types of beans and a
Mhm.
lot of the other like celery, and it was
Oh,
excellent.
that sounds amazing.
So yeah, and it was just like, so every once in a while I'll just get like, ooh, that sounds good, and I'll like get the ingredients together in my head and
Mhm.
run to the store. Although I don't go to the store that much, I do the Instacart more
Me
than
too.
anything.
Instacart and Stop and Shop, whatever they are doing, it's
Yeah,
the best.
godsend,
And
I tell you.
it really is. It really is. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't eat takeout at all. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe pizza. Pizza is different because even though I can make pizza, it just never comes out as good as some of the
It
pizzerias here in New
doesn't.
York.
What is up with that?
I think it's the stone cooking thingy that they have in
Maybe,
the
but
oven.
yeah, it can be very disappointing.
Yeah, it can be. But that's
All
pretty
right.
much the only thing. Nothing else has ever impressed me about I never go to a restaurant and say, wow, that was amazing. Sometimes when I cook my own stuff, I'm like, wow, that was amazing. Or if somebody that I'm hanging out with cooks, I've had
Mhm.
so much better food prepared by people than I ever had at restaurants. And I live in New York, and that's saying a lot. That's saying,
Wow, really?
hmm I've very rarely, if ever, have been impressed by anything.
Wow,
Maybe
and
it's
they're
what I
supposedly
ordered.
got some fabulous restaurants there and everything.
Yeah,
So,
no. Could be
wow.
pandemic life making me jaded though too.
It could be. It could be. I visited New York once. Once? Yeah, once. I lived in Atlantic City.
Oh, pretty close.
Years and years ago, before the hurricane destroyed the boardwalk and all that stuff. It was like years before that. And my best friends came up and we went to New York, I think for the weekend or something like that. And they were like, oh, we got a room we can share and everything. And I was like, oh, you got a hotel? And they was like, well, it's something. And I'm like, oh,
It's
okay, I don't know what
something.
that means. So we get there, the hotel, and I use that term loosely, is more like a boarding type facility,
Oh,
boarding type house.
mm-hmm.
It had a communal bathroom. And I was like, oh my God, no, no, no,
Mm-mm.
no, no.
No.
It was a very strange experience. And they were like, oh, was the cheapest we could find, and it wasn't really cheap. And I was like, oh my God, I would have chipped in some money if I'd have known we were gonna end up staying here. But oh my God, it was horrible. It was just like, oh, just the bathroom itself was like skeezy. And I was just like,
Yeah.
oh, it's like, oh, I still have
No.
I look
Communal
at that
bathroom? No.
flashbacks.
No way.
Yeah.
No
That
way.
that was kind of creepy. And it had a communal shower too. So
Yes.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
Not
it
not
was
sharing
very strange.
bathrooms with dudes. Dudes are gross.
Yeah, yes, yes, they are. There's a lot of guys that were living there.
Yeah.
So, but I digress. But I'm gonna taste my food, and I want to
All
hear.
right.
So
I will
everybody,
take
you hear me
mine too.
slurping.
Mine's not slurpy, so that's good.
Mine is slurpy because it's got a lot of liquid in it.
Mm. That's good.
Whew. As I said before, guys, this is Thai hot, so it's the highest level of heat that
Nice.
they have. It's still very tasty too.
Yeah, this one's kind of mild. This one actually very mild tonight. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I forgot something, but no, it's pretty good. Usually the
Mm.
chutneys kick it up a notch. So the tamarind one is a little bit more kickier than the green chili.
But you
So,
like wussy food though. You don't do really spicy, do you?
I like some spicy things. I mean, spicy curry or Indian food is fine, but I'm allergic to a lot of hot sauces
Mm-hmm.
for some reason. I don't know what they are, and I'll get like
It could
hot.
be the vinegar or that additive, that preservative they always put in it. It could
Yeah,
be that. Yeah.
could be that. And usually I'm very allergic. I mean, telling TMI, I'm very allergic to a lot of artificial things like sucralose, which is an artificial sweetener. Very,
Really?
very allergic to that. And unfortunately, they sneak that in a lot of stuff, especially if you have anything that's low sugar or no sugar
Mm-hmm.
added. So I didn't realize that, and I couldn't figure out why I kept getting sick. Yep.
Or you get like
So
headaches or like
I
stomach
get
upset?
headache. I get like some spasms in my esophagus, which is very strange. It makes you feel like you can't breathe.
Wow.
Yeah, no clue what that's about. And sometimes it'll make me feel short of breath. So I actually learned that when I was in the hospital recovering from surgery, and they gave me they wanted me to drink stuff, and they gave me a sugar-free ice pop and like raspberry tea, and both were
Mm-hmm.
artificially sweetened. They don't want you to have sugar when you're in the hospital. And I was fine after surgery, perfectly fine. They tried to force feed me this crap, and then I got sick.
Oh my
So
gosh.
that's everything. I got sick. Everybody gets sick immediately after. So it was that, and I was like, I'm not having this anymore. Give me regular tea or water. Like, if I can't have
Well,
water,
why wouldn't
I
it?
have
Yeah, I
this
mean,
sweet
wow.
crap.
Yeah, just water is not going to
Water.
kill you. I mean,
No, water is like my drink
can
of
you do
choice.
stevia?
Can't do stevia. Stevia
You
does
can't do
stevia.
stevia either.
If it's whole leaf stevia from a stevia plant, yes. But
Okay.
all stevia is processed now. Everything is processed down. So there's something in that. Yeah, that doesn't. I don't.
Mm.
No
They
one has
use
any
I use I use the monk fruit
monk fruit's
sweetener
okay.
sometime
Yeah,
too.
monk fruit's
Yeah,
okay.
I
And I
like
use
that.
that and agave nectar.
I don't like that one. To me,
Really?
it doesn't give the sweetness I like to anything. But the
Yeah. Yep.
stevia or the monk fruit does.
Yeah. Monk fruit does. Stevia, I don't know because it just burns.
Well,
But
stay
monk
away
fruit,
from that for God's sake.
yeah. Yeah.
So okay, so enough about food. I'm just gonna stare longingly at my my bowl over here until we get done. I'm gonna pop it back into the microwave. But okay, so let's talk about your writing. You had a book that came out in November. Tell us
Yes.
about it. What was the title and what was it about?
It was the 10th book in my 4-point universe. The title was Borrowed. And it was kind of like a monumental story in that universe. So my universe started with the trilogy, the 4-point trilogy,
Mm-hmm.
which was a crime thriller trilogy. And I never intended to write more than 2 books. Like I wanted to make it a duology, but it got so popular that I said, yeah, you know what, let me finish it out as a trilogy and see what happens. And again, the people fell in love with this universe, and so did I. And I felt like it wasn't, it wasn't enough. It didn't feel like enough. And then I started writing these cop and doctor romances, or law enforcement first responder, someone else, like people, and then it kind of spiraled from there. A lot of police, a lot of doctors, marshals, the stuff that I'm familiar with. And then I just kind of evolved from there. And the 10th book, Borrowed, is important to that universe because it goes back to the original characters in the trilogy who never really got a romance story, even though the undercurrent was a women loving women romance. I never intended that either, but it just morphed that way. So I decided to give Sally and Maggie, the original protagonists from the trilogy, a romance. And, keeping it light on the action and more on the
romance,
their life together. So, and they're married. Okay. And that's the difference too. Like, most romances, you bring you to the point where they're engaged or they get to the wedding. This one is like, they've been married for 10 years. No.
I love books like that, where it's an established relationship and you get to see like the little nuances and, and all that stuff. I don't know if I would ever write something like that, but I like reading them,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It was a lot. I mean, it was wonderful to write because Sally and Maggie are my favorite characters. And it was, I had to do them justice. And I felt like people needed to see where they were 10 years later in their relationship. I messed around with my timeline a little bit just to kind of, to give them that, but who cares about the timeline?
I know, right? Whatever you get to work. I mean,
yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's our world. We can do what we want with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so from what I understand, your books, like I was telling you off camera, a while back, and I think I had just finished the 4th book in the Cops and Docs series. And I was looking for something to read, before I started up again on a new book. And I asked, and I was like, and I read something and it was like so sweet, it made my teeth hurt. And I was like, oh, I can't do this. I wasn't in the mood for that. I mean, you have to be in the mood for something like that. And I was like, no. So I was like, okay, who better can I ask for book recommendations than Tara Scott? I mean, she has to read them, from this genre and this genre, whatever. So I was like, I told her, I said, I want something with some grit, something with some oomph. And I said, can you give me a list? I said, something that's not pure romance. I want some side plots. I want some excitement, stuff like that. And your name was at the top of the list. So I was like, oh, it was you. She gave me a couple of ones by Jerry Hill. And I was like, okay. Unfortunately, I didn't get around to reading them because I got a story idea and I started writing.
It happens. It happens.
So, it does all the time. Happen. Yeah. So it's just like, so you're still on my list. And she was just like, oh, her 4-point series, you have to start that and blah, 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 blah. So I was like, okay, I'll get around to it eventually. So now are you an audiobook at all?
I'm not. I was going to do audiobook, but I can do it for like the romance series because most of them are standalone. Borrowed is not, but most of them are. The voices, Sally's voice in the 4-point trilogy is so unique that no one could do it. And I had, for 6 months, I had 60, 65 auditions.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, because they go, and I opened the door and there stood Ben. No, that is not how it goes. It should be, I opened the fucking door and there stood Ben. So then I was trying to, like, some of them were okay. And I tried to go, let me get, even though Sally's from the Pacific Northwest, she grew up in a city life, kind of like me. We don't talk like that. And it's just not how I speak. So I tried to work with some people and I tried to give me some New Yorkers to read this. Let me get this. But no one could stop doing the breath. No, what is that? I don't understand. I just don't.
Dramatic drama added for the drama?
It's just they couldn't get the beat of the story because the dialogue moves so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are an audiobook narrator and you can think you can do this, send me an email because I have yet to
You heard
find.
that, guy? You heard
Yeah.
that?
So if you think
Yeah,
you can do it, no one
I
can do it.
yeah, I know what you mean. I did for Big Girl Pill, which was my latest. You know, I wasn't sure if Dirtwell Books if they were going to do an audiobook or not, but at that time anyway. But Tantor contacted them, and
Mhm.
they were like, "Oh, here's some narrators, possible." And I was like, "Okay, I'll give them a chance," But I was like, I really want to be able to find my own narrator, you
Yeah.
know. So because it had such a diverse cast, I
Mhm.
didn't want just anybody trying to do it. And I was like, it had to be somebody who was capable of changing those voices and making them really come out. And I was like, if Angela Daw or Abby Creighton they're not available, which I know Abby Creighton has always done a very good job with my books. So I said, if they're not available, I want to be able to look through the list and send a passage
Mhm.
to the narrator and have them read it and get it back to me. And I didn't audition a lot. I think maybe 10 narrators until I found one. And when she sent me the sample, I was like, she blew me away. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, that's just perfect. It was just
Amazing.
perfect. It was like the passage was like a combination of it had the two main characters in it.
Mhm.
It had two of the most important side characters in it.
Mhm.
And she hit it out of the fucking ballpark.
That's
I was
amazing.
so happy. It was like I got goosebumps. And
That's
I was like, oh my God, it was just so good. And she was pretty much an unknown. And I was afraid that she wouldn't do it
Mhm.
because she did a het romance, a
Okay.
lot.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
was like, and I asked the person at Tantor, I said, will she be willing to do it like under, a different name or something like that? And she was
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, she does a whole bunch of stuff under a different name. And I was like, oh my God, thank God.
That's
So I
good.
loved her so much that the last book, I'm doing a follow-up on it
Mhm.
with the one of the side characters. I gave her own book
Mhm.
that if possible, I really want her to read it,
Yeah.
narrate that one if possible, if I can get that to happen.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah, I
was just
find that
like, oh,
too. It's hard. And and the same thing, my books, I try to be as intersectional as possible. And
mm-hmm,
if somebody can do Sally's voice and Jordan's voice. Now, any of you who are listening to this know who Jordan is from the Mermaid Salon. If you know anybody who you think can do Jordan's voice and Sally's, they're a gold. They're a gold mine. Because they're just so on the other side
mm-hmm,
of how they speak. And I could pick, I can pick and choose and make my best, the one that hit bestseller all over the place, that one in
mm-hmm.
audiobook, but what good is that? And it's a commitment. And, I
Yeah,
don't want to have book a 7 out of 20 books, only one in audio. So I
yeah,
wanted to start it from the beginning, and it's also, it's a financial endeavor too,
it is. It's very expensive, I
it's
know.
expensive and
Mm-hmm,
I'm not down for royalty share on my own work, and I'd rather pay people to do something
mm-hmm,
um, up front, but I'm not going to do that times 20 for something I'm not 100% happy with.
mm-hmm.
So that's a lot of money. And then people are like, you should narrate Sally yourself because Sally is your voice. And I'm like, no, I don't have fucking time to do that. You want me to write a book? You already narrate it. And then they're like, you want me to write? A couple times I had books that were options for TV and they want me to write the screenplay. No, I'm not going to do that. Like, if you want my stuff that much, like, write it. You have the book in front of you. Why do I
Mm-hmm.
have to write it?
Wouldn't you want to, like, if somebody else, like, pieced it together, wouldn't you want, like, first say and how well it was done or anything like that?
Yeah, but they better pay me up front. Like, if
Well,
I'm going to write
yeah,
the screenplay,
duh.
I better be getting paid for rewriting my own book and a screenplay. So
Well, I will hope so. I mean,
like typical New York happening right now. But yeah, no, I write, I write these books because I enjoy them.
Hmm.
And I write them for myself because I was very unhappy with what I was reading, back in 2014, 2015. I couldn't find anything that sat well. Because again, like you said, I don't want that
Thank you.
syrupy, sweet,
Yes,
whitewashed
you have to
country
be in the
girl.
mood for that. You
Yeah, and I
have
don't,
to be in the mood for that.
yeah, and if I was in the mood for it, I would be watching Hallmark Channel romances,
Oh,
yeah, syrupy, sweet, whitewashed, small town.
yes,
Like, I don't want that.
yes,
I
yes.
want books about things that I've experienced in my life. And I'm also a psychologist. And
Another psychologist.
Jay is too. I
I
didn't
didn't
realize
know
that.
that. She really
Yep,
shocked me. And I was like,
yep.
I've known her for years and I had no
I
idea.
had no idea, no idea. And I think, people always ask, how has your degree, or oh my degree, I just realized they're sitting, this is my all
I,
the thing,
I
everything.
see
All the,
that now. Now that
yeah,
you
they're just
said
like
something, I
hanging
see
there. There's a
that.
couple more over here. How has your psychology degree helped you in your life? I'm like, in my life, I don't know, but in my writing, it made it great because my specialty is trauma. Um, I am a trauma specialist. That was the primary population that I worked with for, almost a decade. Usually
Wow,
women,
that's some
some men.
deep stuff.
It is, and I kind of retired from that. But
Hmm.
I'm, if anyone reads my stories, Nora's education and Anita's practice is from my perspective. It's how I went about my world, and I write characters mainly women who have trauma, because I don't know anybody
Hmm.
who doesn't have a sort of trauma.
Everybody does
Everybody is
something.
traumatized. And
Everybody does. It's
I
like
think
it's like you're matching baggage. I mean,
yeah,
that's what life is. I mean,
yeah,
so.
yeah, it is. It
So,
is.
but
So
see, I like you, and I've not even read any of your books. I already know that it will be something I will want to read because
thank
just because of the way you speak about it, because like I've stopped reading books when it was like too far fetched
yeah.
or too syrupy sweet. I was like, okay, I can't do this. I've done that before. And I was like, there are several books that I've started reading. And when I got to the middle and I was just like, oh my God, I can't continue. I just
Like my
can't.
teeth hurt. It's too sweet. It's
Yes, and it's
awful.
just like
Awful.
everybody's so likable and nobody curses
Oh.
and I'm just like, okay, I know it's supposed to be escapism and fantasy and stuff, but I like things with an edge. That
Yeah.
can be escapism as well. It really
Absolutely.
can,
And
depending on
I
how
think
you write it.
it is, and it's about processing what we go through as humans, and I don't write current events.
Hmm.
People ask, you write trauma, or do you write about 9/11 that you have been through? Do you write through trauma that you've been? I was like, no, 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 it's not about that. It's about
Hmm.
people overcoming the things that happen to them and learning to grow beyond those influences
Hmm.
to thrive and connect. And healing from trauma comes in the context of the relationships that you form with others.
Hmm.
And I want that, and that's the hardest thing for any trauma survivor, is to form relationships.
Hmm.
And
Making
you
that
see that.
that trust, getting that,
Yeah,
building that trust. Yeah.
absolutely. And that's one of the underscoring theme of most of these books. And people, I was at a book signing a couple years back before, we were homebound. Um, and
It
somebody
seems like it's
asked,
been 5 years.
it's been at least
It's yeah,
27 years at
mhm,
this point.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, people,
87. It's been 87 years. Yeah.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Four score and 6 months
Mm.
ago.
Yep.
Um, yeah, it's been rough. So I write about that, and this person at the book signing stood up and said, "Do you always write Phoenix stories?" And I'm like, I don't. What? I have no idea what you're asking me. Like, do I write Harry Potter and the Phoenix? I don't know what you're
What
asking.
is?
Um, a Phoenix story is about women, about people who rise from the ashes of a destroyed life and are like reborn again. Like the history,
Oh,
yeah, history, in the historical context of the Phoenix that burns down to ashes and then rises again. I was like, I kind of do that, but I never thought myself as a Phoenix writer, as you
that's
labeled.
interesting.
I just write real life stories. And, people always ask, are your stories about real people? Sometimes they're about something a friend of mine or connection of mine, never my clients, but usually somebody I've encountered in my life who's gone
Hmm.
through Not everything has been me, obviously. I
Mm.
don't.
Oh my God, I hope
Oh
not.
God, that would be terrible. It's people that I know and people that I've worked with, or people who want their story told. Like A.M. Corby and I worked together on Moonflower, which we published together. We worked on it for about 6 months and published it early 2020. I don't remember when. It was maybe May or June, I think we
Mhm.
targeted. And we worked on that together, and she was very candid about her story being a part of Daria's story and what she had gone through in a fictionalized way, and
Mhm.
writing the ending that made sense to her and to the character. And I always believe those happily ever afters have to be earned. Um,
Yes,
they
I
need,
agree. You can't just turn that page and,
yeah,
it's like, I like you, I love you, I love you. Let's just be
the
together.
end.
And, like, let's just
I love
have
all
a
of you.
meet cute and, whatever it's called. I don't even know what the fuck that's called. And I didn't even know what that was. I was listening to the radio and I was like, what is this meet cute crap? And they
I've heard
explained
of
it
it.
on the radio show. And I was like, oh,
What is
okay. It's where two people meet in a memorable way, in an
oh
amusing way,
oh
something
cute.
like that. Meet cute. Yeah. And I was just like, who
No,
came up with that shit?
no, no. Mine, they're going to meet in a devastating way, like in
Well, if
the
you
ER
write
after he got
cops and
shot.
if you do
Yeah,
cops and doctors, and I mean, what else can it be? I mean,
yeah.
seriously, they're
And
out jogging one day and happen to run into each other. I mean,
yeah, they get shot in the back, and they
yep,
fall in love
there
with
you
this
go.
surgeon.
There you go.
There's a
There
couple
you
of
go.
those in there. But
Okay.
like, coincidental meets, I like those. Or um I loved how in my first story, Sally and Maggie came together um by happenstance, so to speak.
Hmm.
And they kind of got locked down together for whatever reason. And the way that they built their relationship and worked on their relationship, and at the time it wasn't a relationship, it was they were colleagues trying to solve a case, and how they evolved from colleagues to humans to romance. Um, or that duty to colleagues. So I kind of, in the book that I have coming out, which has been
Hmm.
long sought and kind of demanded by some fans, hopefully January, if we get the cover art nailed down, January,
Hmm.
early February latest, is I kind of mirrored Sally and Maggie in that happenstance piece, where the two protagonists don't meet under the greatest of circumstances, but
Hmm.
they learn each other, and it's effort, and it pays off. And I like that. I like when effort pays off, because that's what, romance isn't about falling in love at first sight all the time,
Oh
because
my God. Yeah.
forever, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
It can.
You
It
can
really
fall.
can.
There's some people who can. You can also fall in lust very very easily. But
Well, yeah, but once you get past that, if there's something there,
yeah,
then I mean,
that's the best. That's the best. And I've done that a couple times, here and
mm,
there,
mm,
because I tend to write. I don't classify. I don't like labeling. I write lesbian fiction. I write
mhm.
women loving women fiction. Some of my characters identify as lesbian. Some of them identify as bi.
Oh,
Um,
good. Okay.
Yeah, and sometimes I was when I watched your interview with Jay, she kind of said something similar. One of the best-selling books that I had a bi lead, and we made sure that we did that right. And bisexual leads belong in women loving women
Yes,
romance,
they do.
because they're not having sex with men in this story. It's not.
No, they're
It's
not.
they're not.
So
They're
what is the big deal? I
what's
mean,
the big deal? I don't
really.
understand. Like,
Yeah,
what's
and people piss me off so much about it. I made sure in every book I've written, I put a bisexual person
Yep, me too, all the time. And honestly, like this book that just came out, or that's coming out, has a bisexual lead. Heart and Stopper had a bisexual lead, and the one after that one of the two leads will be bisexual as well.
in.
And it's real life. It's real life.
Yes,
I don't
it
understand this
is.
exclusionary thing. Like, stop it.
That it should only be one way, and if you don't do it that way, you've done
Mhm.
something terrible and
Right,
wrong,
right.
whatever. I
Mhm.
mean, and that thought, that premise, or that expectation, whatever you want to call it, is
Mhm.
it gave me pause when I started writing the book I'm kind of working on now. I'm very blocked at the moment,
Mhm.
but so I'm kind of working on. it gave me pause because I was like, oh, how is that audience going to deal with a character? I mean, yeah, I got flack for about having a bisexual main character. I got a lot of flack for that. And didn't see what the big deal was. I was just like, oh, I didn't know there was rules.
I know.
There's
What are the rules?
rules.
And if there's a rule, I'm gonna break it. That's my
There
rule.
you
If
go.
there's a rule, I'm
I
gonna break
wasn't supposed to have bisexual characters. I
it.
wasn't supposed to say the word fuck so much.
Oh God.
In fact, there probably wasn't supposed to be a lot of cursing in the first place.
Oh, come on. I mean, literally, Microsoft Word has a vendetta against me because all these little blue underlines say this word may be offensive to your
Oh my
audience.
God, it says that
It
seriously?
says it. I'm like, okay, then I'm just going to add clit 10 more times to this novel. So I'm like, no, I mean, if I'm sorry, I like it, it was ridiculous.
Oh
So yeah,
God.
I mean, my characters don't know how to speak English. They all curse like that. That's what happens.
I mean, most people do. I mean, every once in a while you'll meet somebody doesn't do it, but most people do. I mean,
Most
if
people,
you catch them at the right time, they'll drop a fuck or a shit or god damn it or
yeah.
something
I
like
mean,
that.
3-year-olds do it. You see them when they drop something, they're like, shit.
Yes, and where do you think they get it from?
Yeah, they didn't. Nobody's born saying it. It's like ridiculous.
No,
Maybe
they're not. They
I
get it
might.
from mommy and daddy or
Yeah,
aunt or uncle or cousin or something.
yeah, or whoever.
So,
But no,
but
and I get a little pushback sometimes too because not all my characters have a label. I don't like two characters in Lesbic don't need to be butch butch. Like that is not real life. They're like not every lesbian is butch. Not every
no,
lesbian is femme. So I have a
no.
lot of mixed and people who don't identify as either because some days I'll walk around like today I have makeup and nail polish on. Later on I might have this hat right here. This is how I want to be later. So what does it matter? What does it matter? What, now I'm messing
It
my head.
doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah, it really doesn't. It's just
It
like
doesn't
I
matter.
don't like that label thing too much
No,
either, unless I go out of my way
right,
to create a butch character,
right.
that's obviously,
And
other
right,
than
exactly.
that,
Other than
yeah,
that, no, they don't
yeah.
need to be anything. Now, the book that I have coming out in, we'll just say January for now, it's titled Mercy with its double meaning, but it's a long time character through my series named Mercy, who is goes from being an assistant district attorney to a federal court judge back to an attorney. She is high femme, like, and I don't often write high femme, but
Hmm.
it took me
Wait
a
a
while.
minute. What is high femme?
High
What does
femme,
that
like
mean?
makeup, hair done, like she is
Oh, so
literally
you
the
mean high
prettiest,
maintenance?
high maintenance, high,
Okay.
all feminine, probably doesn't even own a pair of sweatpants.
Oh my
Um,
God, that's
that
that's
type.
really.
And I did that to myself. This character has appeared in 10 other books. And the way that they made her seem bitchy and like always in these power pump heels and like all and
Hmm.
her hair down to her, I was like, well, great. Now everybody wants me to write a story about this
Hmm.
character. I got to make the whole character and then to
Yep.
see her but then that's all a facade. What happens when you take a shower and your hair isn't curly anymore
Yes.
or you're
What's
not wearing
underneath
makeup?
all that? Yeah.
That's what's underneath. And that
That
is the
could.
beauty. That's the beauty of it because
Yes, it
none of
is.
us walk around like that. I don't sleep in a hat. I mean, I don't sleep in a hat. That's something I put on my head. I mean, I
Hmm.
sleep in nail polish, but I can pick it off in 5 minutes if I feel like it.
Hmm.
So we are as fluid as we want to be. And that
Yes.
freedom has to be as a part of my characters too, because I want these books to be, and um, I kind of keep it low key unless somebody has a heritage. Like in Anita, the woman she falls in love with is from Indian descent. And,
Mm.
I not all my characters need to be white. I mean, actually, most of them aren't. I am an intersectional writer. I have intersectional friends. I mean, I have like 4 white friends in a group of 10. Like that's I did not grow up with an entire white group of people hanging around me all the
Well,
time.
see, I like that. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, I think even though, like I've always said, the state of lesfic is white. I mean, that's the status quo.
yeah,
you know, um, and readers scream for diversity and, blah, blah, blah. But when they get it, they're like, oh,
yeah.
well, you know.
Yep.
but I very much want, I think it's a good thing for other stories to be out there so people can see, uh, while this person may look different, talk different, is
Mhm.
overall different, they still fall in
Mhm.
love the same. You
They
know,
still fall.
there's nothing different about that. And it
Yeah.
really pisses me off to hear I can identify with that. I mean, she's from Hawaii. I don't know anything about, that culture. I mean, you fell in love, didn't you? I mean, so what do
Yeah, that's it.
what, come
Yeah.
on. I mean, so that pisses me off. And I
Yeah.
remember somebody said, and I always misquote it, but so I kind of turn it into whatever I want. Somebody said once, um, that if you're able to read about ghosts and witches and monsters and werewolves, and you
Mhm.
can identify with them, you can identify with anything or anybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. So have you ever been with a publisher, or have you already always self-published?
No, I was traditionally published for about 5 years.
Uh-huh.
Um, both, I don't write just under this name. I write under my legal name as well, and I
Uh-huh.
write middle grade. Um, and young adult novels and
Oh, okay.
articles and things like that. So yes, Max Ellendale started out in a traditional publishing model, but then I can't remember the year, like when all of the everything rolled under imprints, we had the opportunity to get our rights back on some of our stories, and
Oh,
I
okay.
said, "Yep, give them back," because this is the age of digital self-publishing.
Mm-hmm.
So I took my rights back on my Max Allendale titles. Um, and I self-published. I have like my own. I still have my same cover artist. I still have my same editor.
Oh, okay.
So I really just didn't let anybody take my money anymore. That's kind of the difference. So
Yeah.
I still write the same stories, and I don't have to worry about age. Well, I do worry about agents, but not for Max Ellendale. I have
Uh-huh.
other stories that are, I try to keep the middle grade young adult stuff very separate.
Well,
Um,
yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, that would,
very,
yeah,
so I
that would
do have
definitely make
some,
sense.
yeah,
Yeah, and
traditionally.
that's interesting. I've thought about it. I've researched, self-publishing and all that stuff. And I say, eventually I may do it, when I think I would have the money, to hire an editor to, really streamline the manuscript the way I'm used to it being,
Yeah,
have a graphic artist that's able to, like you said, you use the same person. I would love to be able to do that and not have to have that middleman,
yeah,
or whatever. But
yeah.
I'm not quite there yet. So I was just like,
Eventually,
oh, yeah.
we'll get there. I think I was at my fifth book being published before I kind of pulled, took. I think it was the fifth, at least the fifth.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
I'm I'm doing number 7.
wow, good for
On
you.
number 7.
That's
I'm working
fantastic.
on number 7. I
Good, good,
did
good.
I had 4 romances, and then I did, I guess you could call it a contemporary drama or something like that. It wasn't a romance. It was still less fit, but it wasn't a romance.
Gotcha.
So I which was it was like my favorite book to write,
Mhm,
but it didn't sell well. It was a critical success,
mhm,
but it didn't sell well. So I would say, um, a few more books, to kind of spread my name a little bit more.
mhm.
And that way, when I do venture into self-publishing, it'll be like, oh, a new book by KD, you know what I mean? So I was
Great.
like, yeah, I think it's just brave, somebody who can be a complete unknown
Yeah,
self-publishes, because
yeah.
that's a lot. I mean, that's a huge risk you're taking. I
Huge
mean,
risk.
you're total unknown. Nobody
Mhm,
knows anything about your writing style or anything like that. I
mhm.
mean, so
Yeah, and
that's
I've
like,
learned a lot. Yeah, I
yeah.
learned a lot from being traditionally published. I mean, a lot. And I carried what I learned into
Mhm.
what I do now. And I still do alpha readers, I still do beta readers, I still do
Mhm.
multiple rounds of edits. Like this is, I don't do all of those things. I have people who do them for me, and I
Mhm.
need that. And people always ask me, oh, do you have any advice for emerging? I just wrote an article with some colleagues for they were connected to a graduate school, asked me to contribute to an article on self-publishing, and they were asking, like, what are the biggest takeaways? What do you need to know? You need to pay for edits. You have to have an
Mhm.
editor. You have to. You should absolutely have a cover artist, because people judge books by the cover. When they
Yes,
say
they
no,
do.
they judge by its cover. So, I mean, honestly, people will say, why was Heart and Stalker your bestseller? I said, Heart and Stalker was a bestseller because of the cover. The cover has a woman with a cowboy hat, and it's in the country. And that is what this white, happily ever after, small town romances are very
Oh,
popular. And I
yes.
think that this
Yes,
just
they
popped up
are.
there. And
Mhm.
I don't write small town. I don't even know what small town is. I mean, I live in a small town at the moment. Bad. But
Quirky, weird characters, quirky, everybody
yeah,
knows everybody,
yeah. I mean, that's
Yeah.
enough of that. Everybody knows everybody in Seattle too. I mean, it depends on
Yeah.
your community. I mean, that's what we have a chart. We have Jordan's lesbian chart. Just like
Oh
everybody
my
knows,
gosh.
or I shouldn't say lesbian. Jordan calls it that, but there's all women loving women chart, and
Oh
it's like
yeah.
all over the place. You can walk into one bar and 40 people have been in your bed. That's
I
you know,
know, isn't that crazy?
it's ridiculous.
It is
It's a
crazy how they work
small,
that.
small
Yeah,
world. But small town
yeah.
romances are charming, and sometimes I like them. I mean, I have some of my favorite books by lesfic authors who wrote small towns, and it's just fantastic. So
Mm,
I appreciate it. It's just not what I want to always write. Sometimes I want.
yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, and that's why I think I just kind of stopped writing the cops and docs thing. I wanted to do something different.
Yeah,
And I
mine more.
did. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's just
mine
like,
morphed into
okay.
like professionals of some sort, but everybody's a professional in their own right. So like the last one was U.S. Marshal and a lawyer. The one before that
Ooh.
was Heart and was a veterinarian and a U.S. Marshal. One was a beat cop and a dancer. So it's kind of like
Oh, okay.
it's all over the place now. It just
That's
started out as cops and docs,
mm-hmm.
and because that's what I know. Those are the two things that
Mm-hmm.
I love, and it's what I enjoy. I mean, I'm an essential worker. I do some forensics psych. I mean,
Oh, you just
love
into some,
forensics.
you have your fingers in a lot of pies, it
I
sounds like.
absolutely do. And I use my, I'm jack of all trades, master of
Mm-hmm.
none type thing. I play guitar. I am creative. I do photography. So I use all of that stuff in my characters, and it's important. It's important. I'm a nerd.
Well,
You
you
can
just make
read.
me feel like I lead a boring life.
Well,
All I,
people who live a solitary life tend to have more creative outlets in a certain way. And, even though I grew up surrounded by people, I never felt that connectivity to
mm-hmm.
them in a deeper way. So I entertained myself by reading and writing and art and photography and music and everything else. So though you'll catch those threads and stuff that
Yeah,
I write.
yeah. I do. I'm a gamer. I incorporate that
Too.
geekiness into some of my characters sometimes. I mean, I'm almost 50 years old and I watch cartoons. So, I mean, sometimes I end up incorporating that into, my character. I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'll be
I'm right there with
65
you.
and I'll be watching Marvel movies. So
Yes,
that's okay though. That's my thing, and
absolutely.
that's okay. My wife may roll her eyes, but she tags along, and
Of course.
and all that. But yeah,
Right there.
I like incorporating some of that stuff in there. It's just like I just consider myself a geek. I don't. I write. I'm a pretty good gamer. I'm not up there with the people who are making millions and millions of dollars, or I will be making millions and millions
Yeah.
of dollars. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's something I enjoy. So, and it's one of
Absolutely.
those
It is for me.
things that throughout the pandemic, if I didn't have that, I think I would probably be in a mental health institution at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, a good therapist, something to divert myself, because 2020 has been the crappiest year. I mean, just
Yeah,
oh,
I'm gonna write something and I'm gonna call it the stolen year. And I don't know what I'm gonna write, but I'm gonna call it
oh,
that because this
that's a
year,
great title.
yeah, that's the stolen year. I don't know if I'm gonna write an article. I don't know, but I am gonna
Oh,
do it. And that's what we are suffering right now. And I don't think that I can
yes.
write it. People always ask
While
me,
it's going on.
yeah, I can't. I have such a hard time doing stuff while they're happening. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
was 18. Was I 18? I think it was 18 when 9/11 happened, or
Mm,
19. And we were right at the heart of that. And people always asked me, did you ever write about it? I took pictures. I have pictures. Yes, I have a lot. And
mm,
they're not, they're tucked away in one specific container for a reason. And
mm-hmm.
um, I worked with first responders. That was my first job. My first job in psych was working with first responders after 9/11.
Wow. Oh my
Um,
gosh. Talk about
so
trauma.
talk about that. Yeah. So people always ask, why don't you write about that? Because I don't want to. You know,
Jesus Christ.
yeah, why would I want to write about
That's
that? That's, and also
mm,
I feel like I carry something for them, like sharing your trauma with someone, you're not alone in it anymore. Somebody carries
mm-hmm,
that. It's kind of sacred. Um, I don't want to write about it directly. And if anyone reads my novels, that I will reference stuff every now and then, but I never ever pull to an historical event
mm-hmm,
because I want the readers to interpret that for what it meant for them. Now,
mm-hmm,
somebody living in New York, 20 minutes from where ground zero was versus
mm-hmm,
somebody living in California. Now, it doesn't mean to say that their trauma is any less impactful
mm-hmm.
than that, but it's everybody's experiences it differently, and we can't invalidate everybody's different experience by
Yeah.
saying this is what it is. And I
Yeah.
just don't do that. I don't write about specific events. I've done a couple narratives. I've done a couple of, I was a photographer at the time that it happened. So I had part of my photography portfolio does include, I'm looking over here because I have one picture on my wall
Mm.
uh, from a bridge from Central Park, but that's it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like at that time, that was how I processed it. That was how I worked on it. It doesn't need words. To me, it just needed emotion. Um, and that's what I've got. And that's what I gave it. And it doesn't feel like it needs to be written. So,
Mm.
same thing with the pandemic. Like I want to write something about the stolen year, but I don't necessarily think it'll be the pandemic. It might be someone else experiencing a stolen
That
year.
title could just, I mean, it's eclectic. It can encompass anything really.
Anything,
So
anything.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, okay. Well, you're just a very interesting person.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
try to be interesting.
Well, yeah, yeah, definitely. And it makes me want to read your books even more now.
I was very excited to learn that I did read one of yours because sometimes I do these interviews or author panels and I haven't read the work of the people that I'm on, and I just feel bad. Sometimes I just go rush through it and read some things
Really?
because I want
I've
to relate.
I don't think I've any I'm trying to think. All the people I've interviewed, I think Jay, I've read a few of hers, not all of them, just a couple of them.
Mhm.
Um, I read the book of the Anne Shade's book.
Mhm.
Um, I think that's yeah. I'm very, and that's not to say that other authors don't write, great stuff. I'm just extremely picky. I
I'm
mean,
extremely
and I like to have, like when I'm in a mood for a sweet, slow burn, I'll read Jay because
yes,
that's exactly what
slow
she
burn.
writes. That's
Yep.
exactly what she writes.
Yep.
You know that's what you're getting. You know,
Absolutely. And when I want something that I know is going to make me chuckle, I read Claire Lydon. I love her stuff.
I've never
Um,
read her before, but people keep telling me, if you want to laugh, feel good type stuff. I mean, I was
so
like, oh, okay.
very enjoyable. And then I read a couple of Melissa Braden's novels. One of her, Strawberry Summer, it's on the sweeter side, but just
Mhm.
the richness of that story, I loved it. So it's always, I know who to go to and where to go to, where to
I
find them.
love Melissa's dialogue. Her
Yeah.
first the first book, I've only read a couple of her books,
Yeah.
but I read that first book in the Soho series, I think it's
Yeah.
called.
Hmm.
And the dialogue, it was just like, I was like, oh my God. I was like, I really, she gave me a lesson. And, you know, I mean, because to me, it never, when you read, you get to dialogue, I like it when it actually sounds like the way people talk.
Yeah.
And I can't stand it when it gets proper and I
Hmm.
mean, you know, it's just like,
I don't
it
like that.
takes you out of the story. It takes you out of the narrative.
It
So if
does.
you're able to keep that snazzy dialogue and keep things going, it
Mhm.
pulls you in further. I
It
mean, you
does. And they
know.
talk in your head. You stop reading off the page and you start hearing it. And
Yes,
that's what's important.
exactly.
And I
Exactly. Yeah.
so prefer, and I am, here's my extreme pickiness. I so prefer a novel written in first person. I
Really?
have a very hard time with novels written in third person. I don't write, I've written exact out of the 25 books, all inclusive for my regular self and my pen name. All of the ones that I've written one in third person, and I have fought with myself as to whether or not I want to rewrite it in first person. Um,
Really?
I am 100% a first person writer because that's how I embody the character. And I want everybody to be so inside that character's world. I want them to encompass it. And even so, I want them to tell the story of the person they're playing off of. Like the story Mercy that I have coming out in January, it's not told from Mercy's perspective. It's even though Mercy is the main character, it's not through her voice. She's not speaking. We get to see her unfold through the eyes of the person who loves her. I did the same thing with
Oh,
Heart and Stalker, and just because the voice of that love was so strong that it made it it made it better. And I didn't do it on purpose. I just follow the voice that I hear the loudest. And that's, the book that I'm working on right now. It's two very prominent characters who've had come through all of these 13 books, and um 13, gosh, 14, I don't even know, a lot coming through this book. And I'm trying to figure out which voice I want to hear most, because they
hmm.
both have a strong voice. But I'm going to play around with writing both perspectives to see who is louder and who gives me that heart feeling, because I need
Hmm.
that heart. I need the heart.
Well,
So
I
we shall
mean,
see.
you know, I'll read. I'm not partial to first person stories,
Mhm.
but if they're done in a way that it really makes that character come to life, and it's not. I've found that a lot of first persons, the stuff that I've read, uh, is over the top. It's dramatic
Yeah.
when it doesn't have to be.
But it
So
is.
I'm like, if a writer can write first person to the point where it seems like just a person,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It
Yep.
it seems like a person, and you're getting to that person's. Hey, you're not trying to paint this beautiful picture of colorful language, and and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Where it's
Like those
just
long 2-page worth narrations. No.
oh, I
Nope.
hate that. I
No.
hate that. And it just seems like a lot of times when a book is written in the first person, it's like that. I've only read a handful that have been able to pull that off. And I'm just like, okay, this is what I'm talking about right here. If you're able to like bring it down to where you're able to get into that character, and that character has such a distinct voice that you just sink into it. So
And
yeah.
that's my hope. And that's my hope. And in any monologue, I'm a firm believer, any monologue that a character is going to deliver belongs in dialogue if they're going to deliver it.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm a huge, I mean, if anybody just erased the narration piece of my stories and left only dialogue, you would miss nothing. You would,
Really?
like, yeah, you would miss very little. Maybe a fight scene, maybe
Hmm.
some bullets flying, but most of the story is told through the perspective of the characters and what they're sharing with each other.
I like that. I like that. And
Right.
it's just like I the book I'm working on, it's a lot of dialogue, but it pieces everything together. And I was just like, okay, I like this. And that's what makes it, I think, different from anything I've written before, because it's so much dialogue. It moves the story along. It's how you got to know the characters. It's how you get to know their situations and everything. And I was like, okay, I like this. I've never done this before. And it just works out that way. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it's weird, but I'm enjoying it. Well, I was enjoying it. I'm hoping to enjoy it again soon.
Good.
So
Excellent.
yeah. Okay. So now when I get to the end of an episode, I usually ask an author to tell us an amusing story or interesting story. It doesn't have to be amusing, but it has to be, just something you would like to share. You got
Oh
anything
gosh.
like that?
Not really. I mean, I'm sure other people do. The anecdote I like to share the
Uh-huh.
most about myself is, even though I write these stories with these characters, I am terrible at social cues. Um, terrible,
Really?
terrible at social cues. I mean, especially when it comes to relationships and friendships and stuff. And there's always a lot of behind the scenes of like, hey, if someone's mad at you, you need to like. I was like, who's mad? What? Somebody's mad at me? What did I do? I have like somebody can be literally, one of my friends could be ragefully mad at me, and I don't even know like that. I'm that type of social cues person. Somebody could have a whole lot of flirting happening directed at me. I'm like, hey, cool, yeah, no, it's great, nice meeting you. So not
That's
really
hilarious.
story, but yes, it
Especially with what you did for a living. That is
yeah, it's true.
hilarious.
And I don't know what cognitive processes happen or lack thereof. Sometimes I live in my own world. I
That's what I
literally,
was gonna say. Maybe you're just
I
you
mean,
and you
here,
embody your, to the place where you're just like, unto yourself.
yeah,
It happens. It
it
happens. Yeah.
does. It
Hmm.
does. And so that, that's just anecdotal information. So it's, there have been some really hilarious stories that have come out of those situations.
I can
Um,
imagine.
like my text messages, sometimes I take snaps and snap pictures of them and put them on like my Instagram story, just because my friends know when they're texting me, they're just like shaking their head, because it's like, is somebody flirting with me in text? I'm like, why? Or it's like, just, I don't get it. I don't, what are you saying? I don't understand why. Why don't you come over here and nap? Why? Where? I said, where? This is actually a true life story. So I was complaining about being tired at some point in my past, and I said, I think I'm going to go take a nap. Person said, why don't you come over here and nap? I said, where? They were like, in bed. I'm like, why? Just, and then literally the emoji I get back is like the hand, the palm, and I didn't think anything of it until again, now that sat in my text messages like that until we hung out. And they were like, you don't get it. I was like, what? What don't you get? This is just, that's my life. That's my whole life. My whole life right there.
That is interesting. And you know what? That would make an interesting character to write about as well, too.
Yeah,
That
I
would be hilarious. That would be a good comedy, I would think. Yeah.
yeah,
That
it's
would,
rough to write. I did write one character who has some of those qualities in my readers will know Ainsley Monson. She's a medical examiner, and who she first appeared in Wild Rose, which was the first romance tie-in to the universe that I did. And
mhm.
she threads throughout, and she's a little more expansive and funny, and like she just breaks everybody's boundaries. Like she's just hugging and touching and everything on everybody, and people are
And
like,
doesn't
what?
recognize that people are like, oh,
So
what
like,
is
"Ugh," yeah.
this?
So I kind of went the opposite. But I have toyed with the idea of making a completely socially inept
Oh my
character.
God, that would be hilarious.
It would
Oh,
be,
that would be
yep.
because I could just picture just it would make a good TV show too. Now there probably is already a TV show
I
that has
mean,
that on there. I don't
yeah, The Big Bang Theory, I guess, is pretty close. As
know.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe
People
a little
always say
bit,
that
yeah.
it's I live in my head and my intellect takes over and I just think all the time and I don't feel, and that's a lot. There's a lot of truth to that. There is,
Mm.
and I just think about sometimes like life is like playing chess. So when I'm hanging out with people or doing, back before in olden days when we went to a bar or a club or something, my strategic moves are like, okay, Well, I will stand here where it's not crowded. Oh, look, there's the bathroom. I wonder if so and so is okay. Like and the person coming up next to me, like, hey, what's up? I'm like, hey, what's up, man? How you going? Who comes up to you in a bar or in a club and said, hey man, how's it going? Not the name who says hey man to me or anything, but I'm just being creative about it. Yeah, that's me.
Like
Clueless.
that person sitting next to you, you just like having
I
your
guess,
drink and
somebody buys you a drink. I'm like, thanks. Awesome. Thumbs up. Cool.
And they're just kind of looking at you out of the corner of their eye like, that would be hilarious.
Yeah, it's a little hilarious. So now the whole world who
that would be a very good first person book. That would be an excellent first person book.
Yeah.
From the perspective of the other main character.
Of the other. Yeah, because I could never write it from that. The socially inept character, the dialogue would be, I went to the store. There were Cheerios there. I purchased them and went home. A very nice girl gave me her number on the way out the door.
I'm not sure why.
I'm not sure why. Maybe I'll call her later to see why she gave me her number.
But yeah, it would be hilarious just from the vantage point of somebody just trying to kind of eke in under that exterior of that obliviousness, So
that's me.
That would be funny.
That's me. It belongs in a TV show or a web comic.
It would be a well-written TV show. It can't be something just slapstick. It has to be cerebral and have all that kind of stuff in it.
Absolutely.
Yes,
and I would love to see it like that. I'm like a really big nerd when it comes to quantum physics. I love physics. Not just general physics, quantum physics, and
the hard stuff.
Hard stuff. We would make that character on that TV show who's socially inept like me, be like a quantum physicist or something.
Oh my God. And have it be women.
All women.
Yes.
All women.
Just an array of women. I mean, from all walks of life.
Yep.
that would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody will put it on. I mean, nobody will want them.
Well, I mean, it's so true though. I mean, I write, people ask me, why do you write books? Because I want to read them. That's why I write books. I write books that I want to read, and I self-publish them because maybe other people like them too. That's literally as simple as it is. I was unhappy with what I was reading, so I decided to write things I wanted to read so that I can reread them whenever I want, and maybe other people like them too.
I was just going to ask you that. Do you ever sit down and read your own stuff?
Sometimes. I read the 4-Point trilogy a lot because even though it was like crime thriller, there was something comforting about it. So I reread that one a lot. I don't read the full 10, books, because like some of them I have reread. Like I've reread Anita, and I've reread Heart and Stalker and Entanglement, the ones that I feel the most connected to. But I don't really reread like Wild Rose or Rabbit. I mean, Rabbit has a heavier theme to it.
It does, and that's the one I think Tara recommended, and I was like, "Ooh, that sounds kind of dark." I mean, okay.
Rabbit kind of kicked it off, off all of this. I would have to say, because that one was based in a lot of tragedy, and the tragedy was, people are like, "Where did you come up with that?" I'm like, it's not that hard. It was a real life story that happened to somebody that I care about.
It's already somebody's real. Oh my God, so much
real story, and I can't imagine what that must have been like, So I made it up. And it's not as uncommon. These traumas that I write about, the women recovering from them and growing and changing and finding love. Finding love is not as common as going through the trauma. So
no, you're right about that. Definitely. That's like the what do they call it? Unicorn type situation. Yeah.
Falling in love is definitely finding a unicorn.
Yes, it is. Definitely. It doesn't happen to everybody. It doesn't happen often, and which is probably why we read romance.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's what we got, so we make do with in the best way.
Well, you have been a joy. Thank you. I can't wait for people to watch this episode. I think they'll find it very entertaining.
I hope so.
So
I mean, I
definitely.
start to be anything. The only thing I want to be is entertaining when I do these things. But
Well, I
yeah,
think you succeeded in this episode, definitely. So thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it.
thank
Feel
you for
free to
having me.
come back whenever. All I ask is next time your food be a little bit spicier. So at least maybe we'll get a face flush,
Oh, I don't really.
something, or maybe a little bead of sweat like up
No, it won't
here,
happen.
something, some tea, like something, where it looks like you're a little bit uncomfortable.
Oh, just to bring somebody in the room who's gonna hit on me, and then like
That
let
that
them
could
do
be
it, and
that
then
could be
you.
interesting.
I'm never gonna know what's gonna happen, and then you tell me that they were hitting on me, and then I'll be like, so, there you go. That'll
Well,
do
the
it.
only other person I have here is my wife, and I don't want her to hit on you. I don't think that would be appropriate.
That's not appropriate at all.
I don't think that would be appropriate. Oh,
Wow, this has spiraled out of control, and I
I
just
know it has.
love it. I really
But
do.
anyway, thank you for joining me. Good luck with the new book and the newer book that's possibly coming out in January.
Hopefully. Thank you so much. It was
Hopefully,
lovely speaking
hopefully.
with you.
It's been great. Thank you.
Take care.